Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a special treat episode for you. This is something that's come up a lot with regards to people wanting information. This is on whether you can put a 12 volt lithium ion battery for starting the car in place of the one that exists. Currently there's an AUX 18L battery that's available for around 150 bucks plus shipping, and it's a 20 amp hour battery. That's what's currently in the car. And if you can get it, you can't even really get it. There are lithium batteries that are available for putting into other EVs. That's just Tesla. This was OMU that is pretty popular. But I checked with the company, and they are not at this point in time making anything that's compatible with the i3. One i3 owner has installed the ATX20 anti-gravity battery into his vehicle, and there's some comments and several blogs that discuss this, and it only has about 10 amp hours capacity, but apparently at least for the last 9 months it hasn't had any problem. So why use an LFP battery or lithium iron phosphate versus an AGM lead acid battery? And a couple things stand out. It's more than just the lifetime. The AGM battery can perform better over a longer period of time. I mean, it can maintain its voltage output as the battery is discharged much more deeply. For example, here this graph is showing that even with up to 80% discharge of the batteries, the voltages are fairly stable. Even if you go up to fairly high discharge currents, it still gets a similar performance, which is something that doesn't happen with AGM batteries. Also, even at lower temperatures, you can produce a lot more power at low temperatures with the battery than you can with the AGM under the similar conditions. So even though they're not known for low temperature performance, they perform actually better than the AGMs. Another interesting aspect is something called Puget's law or effect, which means that when you put a lead acid battery under a high load, you really need to have a high amp hour capacity to be able to get the power output, where you don't have that problem with lithium batteries. And finally, because of the improvement in the depth of discharge and the capacity usage, you can get basically 60% better usage out of the batteries. So I went online and looked for a low-cost lithium-ion battery with the right capacity, and I found this one, which I think is pronounced Lucky, on Amazon, and it had most of the specifications that looked like it would be pretty good, including charge and discharge temperatures down to minus 20 degrees, which was pretty interesting if it's true. And the other thing is that the cost was extremely low. It's only $65 was on sale. Which was, and free shipping, which is quite a bit cheaper. The again, the ratings look pretty good overall. There are some limitations with you don't want to overly discharge them, but voltage rating at 12.8 volts is not that much higher than the AGM at around 12.6 is kind of normal. So here's the battery I got on Amazon. It's I think it's pronounced Lucky, but I may be incorrect about that. And I bought it because it showed that it could actually be charged at fairly low temperatures. 18 amp hour battery, which is the same as what's in the car currently. Although you can, with the discharge curve with iron phosphate batteries, you should be able to get much higher discharges versus lead acid, about 50% before the voltage drops significantly. So looked like a pretty good deal. It's also very lightweight. I think it's less than 5 pounds. So it's definitely much lighter than the battery that's currently in there. So the question is, would it actually perform okay with the occasional higher charge voltages that the i3 produces, and the low temperature performance as well, and max current performance? So we're going to check that out. One thing I did notice, even though the literature says it's capable of low temperature cooling or charging, I mean that it actually says charging temperature of around 10 degrees C. So that is definitely not what is in the literature on Amazon when I purchased it. So that could be a problem. So to install the terminal posts needed for a car installation, you need to have some M5 bolts that are decent size. They came with these small M5 size bolts. I ended up getting some longer ones that look like this to install it. Just a side note in case you weren't aware, there's different sizes for the battery terminals, and you can see that there's a smaller diameter and a larger diameter post. And for automotive batteries, the positive posts on the batteries are always larger, so just think positive large, negative smaller. They're not the same size, so you need to be aware of that when okay, so I've got it hooked up for amps measurement, and we'll just do a quick check with a car vac to see what we can get. I've got it hooked up through the device that is on. So with some contact. So easily pulls 6 amps, no problem. So I connected the battery to a charger that's designed to do LFP batteries, and everything was looking pretty good. Charging at 13.7 volts and slowly climbing up, so no problems there. However, as the battery continued to charge, we did notice that there was an issue where around 14.1 volts roughly, it started to disconnect the charging circuit from the battery itself. So that seems to be the overvoltage protection. So I wanted to go over a couple issues that could potentially be roadblocks to implementing a LFP battery in the i3. And one of them is that they can draw a large amount of current from an alternator, is one comment that I had because of low internal resistance. But I measured it on my battery meter, and a couple things. One, I got about 112 CCA, or cold cranking amps, which is not too bad, and about 21.85 for the internal resistance. So if I take a look at that and compare it to what I had with the a used battery, AGM battery, I was getting about 148 CCA. So it's kind of in the same ballpark, and internal resistance of around 16.7. So I don't think it's going to be a major issue for that particular problem. Another potential problem is it's been known with regular cars that if you run them without a battery, that the alternator can get blown because of voltage spikes that can occur from system devices turning on and off. So it can happen if the battery gets disconnected. You can have a large voltage fluctuation in the system, and can potentially harm the electronics. So I'm a little worried that that could potentially put a strain on the EME, or the voltage inverter circuit. The other issue is that I know that from measuring the system voltage from the EME, that I get anywhere from 14.3 to 15.3 volts. From data I pulled from, this case it was a website for Rolls battery, at low temperature, around 0 C, it's not unusual to have a charging voltage for AGMs around 15.3 volts. So I went back and did some more detailed measurements on the current and voltages during charging to see just exactly what's going on and characterizing it. Still climbing up at 13.8, which is sort of the nominal. Still holding at basically 2 amps, which is the charger nominal. .1, it kicks off, and charging current basically went back to 0. So it looks like the BMS disconnected the power at 14.1 amps. So I'm going to disconnect the charger and we'll see what happens to the voltage if it zeros or goes back to nominal. So it goes pretty quickly back to the 13.86, so it's not holding at any kind of a pause before it re-energizes, so that's pretty good. So this time, just make sure it's not a charging issue. I have a 12 volt power supply that I've hooked up here, and if I turn it on, it's putting out about 15.6 volts, so that should be pretty close to the maximum. Now if this is connected up to the battery, we're going to see the battery very quickly ramp up, pulling about half an amp. And again, it basically disconnects the battery at that point, and it's going to the open rail voltage of the power supply. So it's not a charger issue. So I've got my 6 amps load set up this time with the charger on, so it's pulling about 0.57 amps. Voltage is slowly going up. Yes, it's charging up to the max. Power supply is on. It's applying about 15.6 volts. You can see now if I connect the positive lead here, we'll see what happens. A nice view. So I know that's drawing about 6 amps, so definitely pulling from the battery. The amp draw from the power supply wasn't going over about half an amp, 0.6 amps. Okay, so the battery's gone back into the state where it's shut off the charging current from the power supply. We're going to see how fast does it take to respond to a load going on. It's about 6 amp load. That definitely the battery will have to supply some of it. So there doesn't appear to be any delay between the battery turning on and supplying load, even though it's not drawing any charge current. So it may still be okay, although there's some risk involved. One of the risks is blowing out the EME, which is anywhere from $3,000 for the unit to $12,000 to have a dealer replace that particular unit. So one of my worries is that if the battery is disconnected from the charging circuit, it is no longer acting as a buffer for any variations going on within the system. So that was something that we'll have to keep an eye out. To summarize up the findings, it looks like the LFP battery should be okay relative to the voltage output compared to AGM, except that if it's shutting off the charging current at 14.1, there's a risk of it not actually charging, since, at least in my case, the EME inverter is keeping the voltages when the car is on between 14.6 to 15.3 volts. Of course, there's also the concern with potentially damaging the inverter if the battery is disconnected and not acting as a buffer to any load fluctuations in the system. Also, it may be possible to reprogram the EME inverter to something other than AGM to get the voltages down to a reasonable level. The current output of the battery seems to be okay. If 100 cold cranking amps is available, and cold performance, if the specifications are correct, it should be fine. And if it's not correct, then a limit of 0 degrees C to be able to charge the battery could be a problem. And then again, just overall, the internal resistance appears to be okay, also in the same ballpark as they used AGM. And then the other specifications of the battery are actually look superior to the AGM batteries. So I thought I'd add this in as well. It looks like Bimmer code is it's possible to go in the expert mode and actually change the battery type to be able to possibly change the charging current profile. So that may be something that would allow us to go ahead and actually make the battery charge properly. If we don't do that, there's some concern I have that whether the battery would actually be charged, especially under low temperature conditions where the inverter would be charging at the high voltages, which should actually shut off the charging current to the battery. So that's it for this episode. We'll probably have another episode that will go over part 2 if I go ahead and try to install it into the vehicle at some time in the near future, and we'll put out a part 2 during that. So thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more.